All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Alara Canfield Show, the Awaken to Happiness Now Global Series. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And today we have a brand new guest speaker on the show for the first time. It's Cathleena Hailley. And Cathleena is going to be talking to us about uncovering your life's inner and outer story. So I'm excited about that. We're going to talk about so much. Part of what we're going to talk about is how your beliefs have created your physical body. We're going to talk about, understanding some of the patterns in your life, what your crystalline DNA is, what the grid system is, the difference between the old and new grid, and how to access your multi-dimensional self, right? And what a reset of your crystalline DNA will do for you. So there's a lot. So it's going to be fun. So stay tuned. It's going to be a high vibe call. And for those of you who don't know Cathleena is an embodiment of the Divine Feminine who works with the Council of Nine Collective, and in particular with Jesus, Metatron, and other Ascended Masters. Her coding accesses the womb water of an individual's birth so that they are brought back to their original soul expression, creating a rebirth to allow for full expression of the soul's imprint. As the lineage of the life architect, her crystalline DNA signature not only carries a frequency or perfect pitch to align to the original human template, Earth template, and this universe's template, but continually recalibrates this alignment. So, wow, right? She incarnated as an Arcturian, Andromedan, and as a member of the Council of Nine Galactic Collective. And so Cathleena brings the knowledge of human patterns of existence, along with her extensive knowledge and work with interplanetary and galactic portals. And through this, she accesses human patterning with galactic information, technologies, and energies to fully access their original soul's blueprint. So I'm excited. So we are going to have so much fun talking about, learning about, and experiencing the energies and maybe even the crystalline DNA and what that is and what that feels like even, and what it means to reset it, right? So we're going to talk. I'm really excited about that because, some of us could do with a little reset, right? So I'm so glad she's here. Cathleena, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited.
Awesome. So Cathleena, when we were talking before, we talked a little bit about your history, your story, how you started, but can you share with us, with the audience, how you started off on this journey? Because you didn't, this wasn't the field that you were in when you first started. You were in corporate at one point, right? So, can we talk about how you started working in this field? What was the big, I guess, that moment that's like, yeah, it's time to shift. What was that all about?
Yeah. Well, actually, with me, part of my story is that I actually came in the world pretty on. And so from very young, one of the first things that began to happen to me is that when an adult would speak, which was my parents, I would, hear something come out of their mouth, but I would also hear their thoughts, which was different. And then I would feel their emotions, which was even different from that. And so it became very confusing as to what was real and what wasn't. And so I kind of decided to go into my head at that point and be more intellectual. But this was very young, and so my father, actually, who I think was very aware, he introduced us to transcendental meditation when I was about 6. And so when I started meditating, and I realized this later in life, that when I would go into a meditation, there were 2 individuals that would sit with me, and we'd sit kind of holding hands in this triangle, and it was Jesus and Mary Magdalene. And I would go then deeper with them, and then I was taken into the Akashic Records. And so that's when I met the council, which is the Council of Nine that I actually work with, and the Arcturians and so on. I didn't know that's who they were, but they began to kind of teach me, different things at that time.
Right.
So I didn't know what that was. And so for me, I just felt very different. And I ended up, as I developed, I kind of moved into business, and I have a business degree, and I did that. And then it kind of led me into massage, and it was really through massage therapy that I had a lot of awakening through energy. And then a progression led me to realize that I did automatic writing, and it was really through the automatic writing that I had really direct contact with you know, a lot of these guides and teachers. And I started to kind of understand a bit more about what I was doing here.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit more of my sense of direction. So, and that really progresses me all the way up to about 1996 was when I really recognized that I did the automatic writing and had some real direct contact at that point.
Awesome. And, you know, and that's the thing, you know, a lot of people are still looking for direction, right? Like, where am I going? What is my purpose? That kind of thing. So at least you were able to find that out pretty easily, I would say, you know, because a lot of people are still searching, still on the path and still wondering and searching, right? So I'm glad that you were able to find that pretty quickly, and then you were able to move into that your path and into your purpose in a bigger way, in a more, I would even say, satisfying way, right?
Yeah, yes, but I have to say, as most people though, it really is kind of a progression, and it's really just experiencing yourself in your life. You know, it's kind of keep questioning, because it's not like, you know, I mean, I guess sort of, it's kind of like I got led to a library, right? But when we say that to somebody, they have this idea that just the book shows up, and it in energy it does, but in your life it's not like that. You know, in the physical life, it's just kind of things guide you in those directions, and it's more out of what you don't want that shows you who you really are.
Yeah,
You know?
and what you do want.
Yes.
Absolutely. So automatic writing can, you know, is just basically channeled writing, right? So you can be in the Akashic records, or you can be talking to your guides, and it's kind of like trance channeled writing, you know? So it's
Well,
not really from your mind per se, but you're channeling it.
yes. Well, the way it would work for me, which was a little complicated, was that I would hear it in my head. It would come out, you know, in my hand, and I didn't really know at first whether I'm just making it up or whether it was, you know, actual guides. So I had them change my handwriting, and so my handwriting goes this direction. They changed it this direction, and then they also did "We Are Here." And so I began to feel the subtlety of, sometimes it's telepathic communication, other times it's more of this kind of frequency energy that's based on, depending on if it's, you know, ascended masters, or if it's a galactic energy, or depending on where it is in the universe and this kind of stuff. So just kind of got used to the feeling of
Yeah.
it.
Awesome. Thank you. And so today, you know, we are talking about the crystalline DNA. We're also talking about uncovering your life's inner and outer story. So a lot of times, you know, the inner story and the outer story don't always match, right? But in your crystalline DNA, is that where your true story resides? So let's talk a little bit about the crystalline DNA and how that relates to your inner story.
Yeah. Well, your crystalline DNA is really your soul signature. So that is, you know, your who you really are. And what happens is when you're born, your physical DNA and your crystalline DNA fuse together. And so when you're actually first born and you're in human form in the physical world, you are 100% your multidimensional self, and you're in authentic you. But as soon as you begin to understand language, you don't have to actually speak, but it's when you have that cognitive awareness comes in, is when you become something or someone. And it's at that point that you are no longer your authentic self. And so you're no longer really fully connected to this crystalline DNA. You're more in the carbon DNA, and then the expression of what goes on in the world. So this idea of the reset, it's literally a process that we will experience today. I can take you through that.
Awesome.
And you're literally taking your being back to that original connection, you know, of this crystalline DNA and your physical DNA together. So you're bringing in a still point, and we can do it based on various different things, but it gives you the opportunity to be in what is considered really the frequency of truth, which is this 0 point. And the 0 point is the space just before and just as basically you're being birthed from source into this, we'll call it the dark womb. And so the 0 point is the space where no thing and all possibilities exist. So that's really our origination when we come into form. But as soon as we begin to told who we are, now we've got limits that are creating, and then we become that, and we create a life based on who we think we are, who we're told we are, instead of who we authentically are.
Yeah, absolutely. And so today, like you said, we're going to be doing an activation of the crystalline DNA, right? So, and really getting back to who we authentically are, who we first were before we incarnated in this lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Well, not really before we incarnated, before we became someone, like before you became Lar, before you became known as a woman, whatever these definitions are.
Right.
So yes, so that's what we'll do. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. And it's an actual process. And the process is that when I take you in, what I see is like you sitting cross-legged in a big bowl. And it's as though this liquid light fills up inside this bowl and comes up around you. And then it's as though you stand up and your body gets wrung one way, wrung the other, and disappears and dissolves into this liquid light. And then you begin to come back into form. And so depending on what we're working with, and today I'm just going to work with, since this is all about, this particular series that we're talking about, which we're really going to move through the chakra systems in the series of resetting what the representation of the different chakras is. So today we're just going to base this on kind of a 0 point of your emotions, just bringing you into a very present place of emotions.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you. And so I wanted to talk a little bit also about the grid systems and what is the grid system and the one that you're talking about, and what's the difference between the old and the new grid system?
Well, around the earth or around the planet, there are grid systems pretty much around us, around everything, a grid system. And what a grid system is like a communication network for all kinds of frequencies to occur. And the grid system around the earth allows for a communication. The original one that was in place has what are called resonance frequencies associated, and the resonance frequencies is love, truth, beauty, goodness. So these are the frequencies in which Source had in mind for us to have as an Earth experience. It'd be kind of the difference between Earth and a Mars experience. So this would be the Earth experience. And so this grid system allows for, through 0 points, for these authentic frequencies to basically be a part of the earth. And our unique signature sort of moves through these 0 points in this communication. And then we align with these frequencies of love, truth, beauty, goodness. So we have that full expression of them. And they're also keep us aligned to an infinite ability to create. But so that was the original grid, but that grid was changed some time ago where it was shut down and it became a finite grid. So the geometry was changed. And so several things happened because of that. When the grid was shut down, we're no longer connected to the authentic frequencies of love, truth, beauty, goodness, which means that now those frequencies are experienced by a collective agreement of them. So they're not authentic. And so that's why we have so many different definitions of love, so many different definitions of truth, and so on that are on the planet. But these are authentic frequencies that we would experience. The other thing that happens is when we're cut off like that, we're literally cut off from Source. And so this is where we don't recognize who we are. We can't recognize our multidimensional self. We don't have our full creative ability, which is the infinite ability. So this is what's been going on. But there has been divine intervention that has come in, and there was trying to fix the old grid or this closed grid, but it wasn't able to do that. So we actually have a new one in place now, which is this organic grid. And this is whole talk about moving from 3D to 5D is this infinite grid is in place, but we still have the old grid in place, which is why it's why everything is going on in the world right now, but it's why there's this, still need to keep aligning ourselves basically through our heart, which is, again, when we do this reset of this crystalline DNA, we're actually allowing our energy to move through the heart instead of through the brain. So think about the grid systems as a direct communication, and one was shut off. So you're only going to learn what I tell you. And the other one is you're going to have authentic information, right? And so we have both now available.
Awesome. And so, let's talk about how, we have the two different grid systems available, and we get to choose which one we want to function with or operate from, right? Like a lot of us are choosing 5D over the 3D, right? And so when we have our crystalline DNA activated, is that going to make it easier for us to choose the 5D, the new grid?
Absolutely, yes. Because it literally is putting you in alignment with the 5D. With the original grid, because that is our original. Once we are at that reset and you're at that 0 point, you are aligned to the new grid.
Yeah,
that happens.
Awesome. Yeah, that happens automatically when we do the activation. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to talk also about when it just seems like everything's pointing me back to the crystalline DNA. So when we are activating the crystalline DNA, we're then able to access more of our multidimensional self as well?
Yes, because that is your multidimensional self. Yes, when we reset this crystalline DNA, and well, kind of the first thing that probably happened, depending on where everybody is in their, we'll say, ascension process or spiritual development, you will begin to recognize the things that are not aligned with you, which are all part of the 3D, we'll call false matrix, which is this closed grid scenario. And so, some of the things, when we are our true self, so to speak, when I'm, my authentic self, that's when I can begin to reflect what in my life is not my authentic self and what am I aligned to. Because the bottom line that we're doing as energy, all we're doing is matching frequencies in order to be comfortable. This is all we're doing, because we are energy, we are frequency, right?
Yeah.
So this idea of matching frequencies, think about it like if in terms of emotion. So, a faster frequency always tries to raise a slower one up. It's just what it does, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we came around each other and say, I'm happy and you're mad, what's going to happen is my happy is going to give your mad a bump, because it's going to try to raise it up. So you only have really 3 choices. You either meet me at happy, because it's about matching, you bring me down to mad, or you go away. Mm-hmm. That's it. Right? So this is the idea of matching, but it's not just everything in your entire world is matching you in some way. You color your clothes, your room, your whatever, So if my environment, everything that's in my life is not authentic to me, and then now I bring myself into my authentic self, I'm going to start to recognize, and what I'm going to start to notice is things that were comfortable before are not comfortable anymore. Mm-hmm. And so this is kind of the process that I begin to, and as I can allow for that and not go into my head and make the story that's still connecting me to all of who I think I am. If I don't do that, and I simply allow myself, right, through that process, then I can authentically connect to the things that are truly who I am. And that's really how you know who you are, and how you expand that, and how you bring that into the world.
So, what I'm getting is like there are lots of benefits to doing the activation, and to activate your crystalline DNA and to access your crystalline DNA and your multidimensional self more frequently. Because I'm going to assume that even what we're going to do today may not be permanent because of our choices that we make after the fact, right?
Right.
So exactly. It's important for us to watch, observe, be aware of how we are now functioning in the world. So can you just talk a little bit about what are some of the other benefits of doing the activation, and at the same time, how can we keep the benefits longer?
Yeah. Well, again, the sort of name of the game is to have an experience here. That's what we're here for. That's the bottom line, is for us to have an experience. And resetting the crystalline DNA allows you to have an authentic experience of who you are. And so, I mean, there's so many reasons, you know, if we look on the planet, I mean, so many people are not truly happy. They're not in relationships that they like, or they're not in a relationship yet. They don't know where they want to be. They don't want to, they don't know things about themselves. So this is the way to know that, because when we bring that reset in, we're bringing you into the neutrality without judgment. And in that is where all possibilities are. It's where authentic love frequency sits. So you feel this sense of calm and peace and all this. And if you allow yourself to be in that, you are fully connected to your multidimensional self, which will expand with you and guide you and bring into you your physical world all the things that are aligned to that. Because again, this is about matching frequencies. So think about it this way. When we do the reset of crystalline DNA, we're bringing you into that 0 point where all frequencies exist. So your multidimensional self has all these frequencies. And so at that moment, you're actually matching those. And it's like amplifying out a signal, you know, for all of that to come into your world. And so your only sort of task from there is to recognize, as you're stepping forward from that reset point, you know, what am I actually experiencing? What am I feeling? You know, and being able to, some of the decisions that you may make would be shifting some of the things that are actually in your physical reality. Because, you know, we don't, deep inside, often we do begin to know who we are, but we don't allow ourselves to experience that. So this takes it different. And so this is very different from just like your childhood experience and all of that. You do have an awareness of that, but you don't have the memory connecting to you because you're in a place of neutrality with it. And so that's the other thing, is that you may have like these emotions and these memories and things coming forward, but they don't have anything to attach to. They simply move because you're not reinforcing them with things that are in your environment, because you don't know you've been doing that. You see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So also when you do the crystalline DNA activation reset, how does that affect your carbon DNA? So now I'm thinking more specifically about the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, etc.
Yeah. Well, it immediately begins to affect it because, again, we're talking about frequencies. So when we reset the crystalline DNA, we're bringing in our authentic self. And once we start to do that, again, you can have a practice, and I do a lot of this in private practice and stuff, where I can help people kind of recognize, first of all, that we are this consciousness having this physical experience. So I'm not like, you know, I'm not me, this body, you know, and this body has its own control outside of itself. It has what's called a template. So we have what's called a human template, which is like the design, but within that template is infinite amount of possibilities that can be created within it. And so, you know, when you bring in your soul signature into this physical body and you allow it to begin to interact, then you can have the physical body in its natural design. What we've got a lot of times, and why we have disease and aches and pains, different things that go in the body, is because we're not authentically ourself that is interacting with this body. So yes, and there's another thing that happens too when we kind of turn on our crystalline DNA and we release out, and this is what you know, again, I do a lot of this in private session, but this will happen if you take the classes. During the classes, that's what we're doing, is we're literally releasing out density out of the actual carbon DNA, out of the cellular DNA, which is these we'll call slower frequencies, like fear and shame and blame and all these types of things. These are residing within the cellular body. And so that when your crystalline DNA begins to interact with that, it begins to start to release that out also. And the two create a communication network for your higher self and for your oversoul. So your higher self is a communication of, you know, all of your earth, so to speak, experiences. And then your oversoul is your galactic, multi-galactic experiences, because you've been on other earth, other planes of existence as well. And so you create like a, almost like a transmitter, like a communicator, so that you have now a direct communication happening really in your whole being for your higher self and your multidimensional self.
Awesome. Thank you. So I just want to ask if anybody had any questions. I forgot to mention at the beginning, if you do have a question, you can hit star two. You can raise your hand or you can type your question in the chat. I haven't used Instant Teleseminar in a year. I don't know why that's coming up. But if you have a question for Cathleena, raise your hand and or type the question in the chat, okay? And it could be about the crystalline DNA activation, the reset, or it could be about even we were talking about the grid systems, etc., or just something around that. If there's something that you still need some clarity about. So Randy's asking, how can we repair our DNA?
Well, that's assuming that your DNA is not healthy.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of.
So that's the case for Randy. He's got some issues with his DNA, and that's why he's asking the question.
So he's feeling that his DNA is not repaired. That's kind of an interesting question. So again, depending on the individual and depending on what's going on with the person, and if I feel Randy's energy, I think there's just there's a lot of things that are going on. There's a disconnect, actually, I think, with the crystalline DNA. So I think the reset's going to help that. But over generations of time, there has been we've had our DNA kind of crossed with other DNA, so that it's not necessarily authentic to you, and that we can do with, there's just various different methods to do that kind of thing. I really feel, though, that resetting the crystalline DNA and beginning there and starting to release out some of the density that's within the carbon DNA is going to make the biggest difference for you,
Awesome.
Randy.
Yeah, good. Awesome. Thank you. So around the same type of question with regards to DNA or medical issues, Carrie's asking, so when I activate the crystalline DNA, I can heal medical issues? We're not guaranteeing anything. You know?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I would rephrase that, because it's not about necessarily healing. It's about recognizing how it's serving you. So yes, when we reset the crystalline DNA again, we're going to bring ourselves to our authentic self, so that then we can have the actual experience of why I have what I have. And so once you are able to actually experience from a different perspective whatever it is that you're experiencing in your physical body, and not from this place as I'm broken, I need to fix it, but more of why am I having this experience and how is this experience serving me, that's when we can make a decision to no longer have that experience. And I have had many people that have had, you know, miraculous situations that they no longer have these situations in their bodies in this particular type of way. It just really depends on why we chose this experience. I mean, we have to recognize we are an energy being and we're here for an experience, and everything that we are experiencing, we have aligned to for some reason.
Absolutely. Angela is asking, or I have tried automatic writing and it comes across as my thoughts, confusing thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's how it felt with me, I think, sometimes too. And it depends on how you do it. For me, it did come directly into my head, and I was confused on whether it was me or whether it was something else. So what I would suggest with that is to continually relax the mind, maybe even do like a clearing, you know, set your intent to release any distracting thoughts, distracting energies, distracting information prior to doing it, and just relax and allow and see what comes forward. You know, it is a practice and you have to feel it.
Yeah, and you know, you have to continue doing it, because the more you do it, it will become clearer, and have the intention that, you know, whatever is coming through is, you know, from the highest source possible, you know, and no, not necessarily you, right?
Yeah, and clearing, and it is a lot about, remember, as you become more authentic, you get more out of your way in that way.
Yeah. Edwin is asking, is the Oversoul in charge of everything?
Well, your Oversoul is your connection to your multidimensional lifetimes. So not necessarily in charge of everything, but kind of, yes, above your higher self and your self that's here, sort of.
Yeah.
So it kind of is the aspect that knows your multidimensional self. Sure.
So it's more of just like a broader perspective, you know?
Yeah. Yes.
I think, you know, when it comes to who's in charge, you are in charge.
Yes. Exactly.
Right. And
there isn't a separation like that.
Yeah.
That's human.
Yeah, exactly. Because you are your Oversoul as well. So yes, it's always you.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
But here, you know, in this dimension, we're a bit more limited than we are in other dimensions.
Yes.
It's not linear, and you know, and that's hard for people to
There's no
grasp.
linear, right. Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Awesome. All right. Anybody else have any questions coming up before? I just want to make sure that we didn't miss anything that we wanted to talk about before we do the activation, Cathleena.
Sure.
I'm just double checking. I think I hit all the main points, but it seems to me like it really is, you know, not just imperative. I was gonna say, wow, that's a strong word. Strong wording. It's imperative to do the crystalline DNA reset, because then you do access your more of who you really are, which is your multidimensional self. And at the same time, it starts to shift, you know, what you're experiencing here and now as well, giving you a different perspective, and also starting to work on clearing perhaps what is in your carbon DNA that maybe no longer serves you. Does that make sense?
Yes, and really, I think if we didn't have two grids in place, this wouldn't be probably that big a deal. But I think it's really more about the fact that we are still dealing with this 3D, we'll call false matrix, and you know who we really are. And so this is just a way to bring everything into kind of a 0 point and give you an opportunity to be able to connect to and experience your true multidimensional self while this 3D grid is still in place. It's not impossible. Obviously, we're doing it. It just makes it easier, I think, to, you know, step into that and to have an awareness of who you are really in your multidimensional self.
Yeah,
so that's
awesome.
really what the reset's about, and definitely to help what we are already experiencing, to kind of have a better awareness as to what we're experiencing now.
Awesome. And so I was just going to share really quickly too, you know, when we were talking last week or the week before, or a couple of weeks ago, whenever it was, I had mentioned something about my daughter, right? Because my daughter, whenever she would go through the metal detectors at the airports and things like that, especially in Europe, it didn't necessarily happen in North America, but in Europe for some reason, they would always ask her if there was something in her, because there was like this square. There was there was this, okay, Vivian, can you just keep yourself muted for now? This square black thing, you know, on her side, and it's like, has she ever had surgery? No. You know, so I asked Cathleena about that. I was like, can you like tune in, tap in, what is that? And so she did, and it turns out it was like, it's more of a, you know, because like there's nothing physical, but it's more of a portal of energy that she, you know, accesses energy from that space for her to create with or receive more or be more, etc. But what was interesting is that, you know, nobody had ever said that, you know, to her about that. And she'd always wondered, like, Mom, what is this? I mean, I never had surgery, but like, what's there inside me that, you know, people are catching on these screens and I have no idea, right? So I just wanted to talk to you about that a little bit, Cathleena, because you know that is something that was totally brand new, blew my mind, blew her mind. You know, like we didn't even think that. You know.
Mm-hmm. That you can have areas in your body that have that are connected to. Yeah. Well, that's when we really step into, like, right, what we're doing here is just a reset. So we're just kind of bringing everything into a place. But as we get into deeper, and, you know, if I had other talks, and as I'm the way that I work,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like I said, I talked just briefly about this human template. And, you know, when I'm working with a person one-on-one, I see that template, and then I see all the different things that show up on this template. And that's why I was looking at that with your daughter.
Yeah.
And very often when I see different things, I see things with people that have implants. There are, I mean, I see giant technologies that sometimes are around their head, around their body, different things. And these are all from different lifetimes. They're from different galactic things. You know, it's really pretty interesting what has taken place in the energetic body of all the different lifetimes and all the different things. And especially because of this whole closed grid and the different things that are going on there. So yeah, if you begin to work with somebody like myself, and there's a lot of practitioners, I think, that are also doing lots of different things, we can see things. And actually, I tell you, it's interesting. I just had a client yesterday, and this was the first time that I had this happen, where as I was watching, so I'm looking at this template, I don't know what I'm looking at. And then as I begin to really interact with it more, I recognize that in this very superimposed way, I could see, like, next to my head here was like this scalpel, and it was very large. But it would have been small, but it was just very large, and I could look at it. And what I'm looking at is like her body, and I could see where there was being severed, and it was like halfway, it was right at the solar plexus, and where the solar plexus had actually been removed. And this was from the origination, if all of you know of the reptilian consciousness or don't know, this was all from the actual DNA. When you talk about the DNA severing, this is interesting. We had a little comment about that, where literally this solar plexus was taken out and replaced. And so I really went to that level and actually healed that, corrected it, and I could see like a little fetus and how we brought that back together. So that was really fascinating to actually see that and go there, you know. So that it's like that kind of level you can really work with, and in all aspects of that with humanity, you know, in many, many different levels. And again, I don't want to get too depth, but that was just kind of cool that it showed up and where that was, you know, yesterday. But that's why we can go from one to the other. And really what I want to say about that, and just in general, when we do this reset of the crystalline DNA, know that you are all very amazing beings. We are creator beings, and we're either creating consciously or unconsciously. And most of us are creating unconsciously. And and we're doing that unconsciously because we're not being who we really are. You know, and so this is an opportunity to just be who you really are.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you. And so Angela's asking, can you tell us a little bit more about the Council of Nine? She says, I seem to identify with them.
Sure. Well, they're all light beings. Jesus is one of them. And they came to me, originally they told me, they said that there were these rings around the earth, and there were civilizations, and that they didn't live there, but that's where and this was a long time ago. This was like in the 90s that they told me this. And they said that, you know, they communicate telepathically from these places, and that, you know, the earth is an intricate part of the universe. And so it was very important. And so, you know, of course, so this is why they're here. And there are a lot of ascended masters, and they're from different collectives. And they come forward really with kind of the same thought, energy, and relationship. And it's really kind of what I feel with Jesus, which is connected to the earth, not on the earth, but kind of like this, it's hard to describe, but it's like a real grounded energy, one with the earth, that when you feel it connecting to you, it allows you to feel this sense of groundedness, but kind of, it's hard to describe, but kind of very comfortable, but very kind of matter of fact almost energy, you know. And that's kind of what I feel that the council brings. They're like, that's what their energy is. They come forward in this, it's not power, but it is like a strength, but it's a strength that allows you just to be, you know, really, and the sense of connectedness to the earth.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you. So Angela, hopefully that makes sense, and that's awesome that you resonate with them and identify with them. Yeah, so I was going to ask you, should we talk about the special offer first, or should we do the activation, and how long will the activation be? Someone's asking.
Well, the activation is probably 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that, maybe a little bit more.
Okay.
We can talk either, it doesn't matter to me, either way you want to talk about it doesn't matter.
Will people still be awake after the activation?
Yes. Yes, they will still be awake. But we can talk about it either time. I mean,
okay. So let's talk a little bit about the special offer, because in that you'll talk a little bit more about the crystalline DNA, and so they'll have probably a better understanding once they do the activation, right? So let's talk about that for a second. So for those of you who are on the live page, you can just click on special offer, and those of you who are not, you can go to lara.at/show/Cathleena7. That's CATHLEENA7. So there are 2 offers, package A and B, and package A is 5 classes with focused activations, and package B is everything in package A plus a 1-hour private session with Cathleena. So, 1 hour. I mean, nobody ever offers an hour. It's usually only 30 minutes, right? So it's like 1 hour.
It's actually 50 minutes, but that, yes.
Yes. Yeah. No, I get it. All right, so let's talk about the 5 classes, because these are all about, you know, DNA, the crystalline DNA activations, right?
Yes, they're all resets of the crystalline DNA, and they're basically, we're going to move through the chakra systems. So the first one is the root chakra. The second is the, you know, second chakra, the sacral, and then the solar plexus, heart, and then the throat. Right. And so, and then all of the association of what those chakras represent in your life now, we're going to reset your crystalline DNA based on those. So like the root is all about how you've been literally in the physical world, what kind of job you created, this kind of stuff. So we're actually going to bring that into a reset so that you can experience, you know, what have I been creating? And, you know, so the focus will be very much your connection to the earth. So it'll let you experience an actual authentic connection, one with the earth, because we're not on the earth, we're one with the earth. So it'll allow you to connect into the crystalline core, which is very different than what we've been doing. So it'll then, you know, you'll have kind of a point of reference as to what you've already been created, and is it even you, and that kind of stuff. So this is what we're going to do as we move through those different chakras. Each class does that.
Awesome. And then the 1-hour personal session with you, what does that look like?
Yeah. Well, you have a session with me, and then I take you into the energy, into wherever you are. So a lot of the things that I've described to you, whatever shows up for you is what we'll work with, or whatever you are. If you come in with something, then I'll work with that. It's all very intuitive. I just move into the energy, and then I very intuitively move in and shift things and do things with you into wherever you are.
Yeah, awesome. Great. All right, so I think we are ready to do the activation, and I think Caroline, you know, it'll be like five minutes, maybe 10 at the most. So you should have time before you have to go. Right. All right. So I'm excited to experience this with you.
Sure. Okay. Well, if everybody wants to just relax, and we're going to close our eyes. And everybody just start taking some nice deep breaths. And we're going to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. And just keep breathing. And as I described before, there's a process, so it tends to happen pretty quickly, but I'll let you know when it begins and ends. Just keep breathing, nice big breaths. I'm just going to let go, let your shoulders relax, let your body relax. And this is no effort. I'm going to release any fear involved. And again, nice big breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Okay, I'm seeing everybody sitting in this bowl. Now liquid light's coming up around, and you can still breathe. It's filling up in the bowl. Seeing everybody stand up. Take a deep breath. Again, we're going to release all fear. We're going to let that dissipate out of the physical body. Just keep releasing the fear as the body now is standing up, and we're going to have the bodies being rung counterclockwise. And again, just keep releasing any fear. There's no effort here. That's it. And we're bringing the other way, and now we're going to drop into the liquid light. And again, we're going to keep releasing the fear. Just keep breathing. We're going to release that on a conscious, subconscious, and cellular level. Big breath, everyone. Just keep, again, we're just releasing this fear. Fear is a chaos frequency. We're just letting that go. We're just coming into neutral. Just keep letting go. Still feeling a little bit of fear. Just keep releasing the fear. Just coming into neutral. Great. Keep breathing. Now we're just going to allow for the body to come back into form. And this is the emotional body that we're allowing to come back into form. It's what we allowed to be reset. So you may have some emotions moving through you. We're just allowing those. Just keep breathing. We're just shifting. We're just allowing. Just releasing that out of the carbon DNA. And any confusion, still a little fear, some control, just allowing that. We're just allowing that to keep moving. Keep breathing, good breath. Just allowing this to come back into the body. We're going to release out of the physical brain any disbelief, any places that are forcing, that are trying to make things happen, that feel stuck, that feel. It's going to release that out as like little particles and just going to float right out of the physical brain as we're allowing for this emotional reset to come in. Just keep allowing, take some deep breaths. Just going to let those particles right out of the physical brain. This is all this thought and belief that I have to do something, that also that this kind of thing doesn't work, it's not for me, can't be for me, all that. Just let that release right out of the physical brain as we keep allowing this reset. Keep breathing, big breath. I'm just letting this as just little particles just floating right out of the cellular body on the physical brain. I'm going to release that on a conscious, subconscious, and cellular level. This is a lot of attachment to the collective, to what's going on right now. Just letting that just keep dissipating out as we're allowing. Take a big breath. This emotional body just to come into this nice, comfortable, still point. Just keep releasing more and more out of the physical brain. Nice big breath. We're just going to bring in this very high frequency diamond white light, and it's from the crystalline core of Gaia. Bring it up in to the entire body. This is just clearing and aligning the crystalline DNA, your emotional body. And we're going to carry that all the way through your physical body. So we're going to carry that through the entire nervous system, the central and peripheral, whole spinal cord, the brainstem. We carry that into the brain and out, crown, and plug you into the dark womb of source. And this beautiful high frequency crystalline diamond white light, all resetting this whole emotional body. Now take a real deep breath. I'm going to release all attachments. All emotional attachments. There we go. Good. Just let that settle in. And take your attention to your physical heart. I'm just going to spin this high frequency crystalline diamond white light through the physical heart and clear out any of the residual attachments or emotions from your environment and so on. Just take a deep breath and just let that rest in. That's great. And when you're ready, you can just come back, see how you feel. Tell me how you feel.
Oh my goodness. I'm like, I was yawning through the whole thing and now I'm like sweating. I'm like, yeah, lots. Wow. Like, yeah. Whew. I'm like sweating and
Yeah, that's going to continue to just keep the space. It's just settling in and moving. It's going to continue.
yeah. So Michelle says I feel lightheaded.
Yeah, that's normal.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit of lightheadedness as well. So yeah, I'm just gonna say drink some water.
Yeah, drink some water. It's good. And yeah, it's because we just cleared your whole emotional body.
Yeah, awesome. And phone number ending in 603. Go ahead. You wanted to say something or ask a question, or how are you doing?
Yeah.
Doing great.
Good. Who is this?
That felt real. This is Rebecca.
Awesome. Hi, Rebecca. Awesome. So you're doing great?
Yes. Well, I've been having a lot of upgrades taking place. Oh gosh, I don't know for how long. Weeks, months, years, but very intense recently. And came across your email like just before it started. I'm like, oh, perfect. And hopped on. And so I'm working on getting my life's purpose really launched, right? I've been doing all the internal work, but haven't put a lot out into the external world. And it feels like it's time to do that.
Yes, it is. Definitely.
Fantastic.
Definitely, it's time. And this was a great way to jumpstart you getting moving, right? By doing this activation, and take a look at Cathleena's package, and maybe a one-to-one session with her can really help you to really get you moving. Because right now we need you, to do what you came here to do, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome, that's great.
I don't know if you're taking questions or if it's just feedback on the process. But.
Yeah, both. Did you have a question you wanted to ask as well?
Well, so I guess yes, please.
Mm-hmm.
I have had an issue with drinking for years, and 5 days ago I just quit. And it wasn't difficult because I had been working on the internal causes for it. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that, you know, it's going to continue to be that way, because it's been my go-to thing for stress and dealing with anger or loneliness and whatever. So anything around that, and then anything around, you know, I'm here to shine a light on satanic ritual abuse and sexual abuse, and to be a spokesperson for people who've been through severe trauma, so that they know that anything is possible, no matter how far down you have been. Anything's possible. And, you know, my journey has culminated in healing and forgiveness and peace and transformation and ascension. And, you know, and I'm still very much in process, obviously, but that's what I'm here to do as far as I know. And so any help with understanding any of this would be wonderful.
Yeah. Well, kind of the bottom line that's been on the planet, you know, is this frequency of sacrifice and kind of enslavement that we've been doing, which is basically, you know, we've not allowed ourselves to really be who we really are. And so I think that, you know, I mean, obviously stopping the addiction and alcohol is great, but I think really recognizing that, you know, we've been creating these sacrifices within ourselves by not being our authentic self. So the more that you can step up kind of and just experience life, actually have an inauthentic experience, the easier this will become. And the more you will be doing exactly what you're here to do. So I commend you, you know, where you are. And I think that if you recognize that you're done with that particular experience and you would like a different experience, you will not go back to that experience.
Thank you.
Awesome, Rebecca. Good luck.
Thank you.
Good for
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome. All right, so there are lots of other wonderful comments as well from people who about their experiences. I just wanted to share really quickly. So Caroline was saying, for me, there were lots of faces. I felt deeply grounded. My feet got hot, so really nice. Carrie said, feeling space. Angela said, amazing. My upper body felt great. My ankles were jerking painfully. That's just releasing, right? Odile says, a lot of tingling on the bridge of my nose and on the front of my leg. Powerful. Yvonne says, heating up, feel clearer and lighter. And Michelle says, thank you, Cathleena, that was powerful. And Mary Claire says, feeling very light, thank you, saw lots of triangles and received some light language, basking in the frequency.
Yay.
Awesome. And Suzanne, even if you didn't feel anything, it's okay because you still did experience it.
Yeah. Fantastic. Right. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes we're just unfamiliar with what it is we're feeling, especially if it's super light energy and we're used to feeling something very dense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yes.
So for all of us who, you know, just had this activation, and for those that will listen or watch on the replay, what is the next step for us now?
Well, I would listen to this as often as you can, or any of the, you know, the videos that have the crystalline DNA reset, because it's very helpful, actually, particularly this one, because it's about the emotional that we did do. I'd say the next steps is to recognize that emotions may come forward, and many of them, and you may even leave from this space and start to feel something else, and just simply allowing it. That's the idea, is not holding on to it. One of the things that we tend to do is we tend to want to replace it with something, you know, like stop this one and start something else. And the idea is, no, just simply allow it to move through and not be concerned about replacing it with something. So if certain emotions come forward and, you know, we you know, feel upset or whatever, just allow it to kind of move. And I think the more that we do that, the more we'll be able to keep coming from that place of authenticity.
Awesome. Thank you. So again, like Cathleena was saying, you know, the next step, you know, listen to this activation again, or if you're going to get package A, go through those 5 classes, you know, which all have activations in them, right? DNA activations in them. Yeah. And package A is 127 for the 5 pre-recorded classes. Package B is the 5 classes plus a 1-hour session with Cathleena for 227. So if there's something that you know, really would like to address, then definitely get package B if you can. And $227 for 1 hour is amazing. So I would definitely, and there are 2 pay options for both packages, so please do take a look at those. So, and that's the thing, it's like, so now, that felt wonderful. The heat, the energy's moving, the energy's releasing, right? So many of us felt the releasing as well, which is awesome. And so now stay in that state of gratitude, like Yvonne's saying, so grateful, thank you. Stay in that state of gratitude. Stay in that higher vibration state for yourself as much as you can. And as things come up, observe them, acknowledge them, and let them go. Don't like get stuck in the story of them, right, Cathleena?
Yes. Yeah, because we are energy having this physical experience. And so we just haven't been taught who we really are and what our real abilities are. So what this gives you an opportunity to start to truly experience that. And it's not of the mind. This is the other thing I do want to emphasize. This is of the heart. So it's just a matter of feeling. This isn't this isn't efforting. You don't have to squeeze your head or anything. You simply have to have an experience, and just whatever that experience is, that's the authenticity of it. Just allowing for an authentic experience.
Beautiful. Awesome. So does anybody have any other last minute questions, or is there anything else that you wanted to share with us, Cathleena, before we go? I was just going to say something really quickly just about the, now it's also important to take a look at, as you are experiencing this higher state and this reset, I'll also start to think about, okay, what is it that I would like to create? What is it that I would like to experience, right? And so as you start to think about what it is that you would like to create, like Rebecca was saying, so some resistance may come up, some of those old patterns may come up, and that's when you're like, oh, okay, you know what? That's an old pattern. I'm not choosing that anymore. I'm choosing this new state that I'm in now. And how do I move forward from this space, right, Cathleena? Does that?
Yeah, but yes, but it's not even, it's really important not to come from the mind, you know. This is all about the experience. So if we can simply allow ourselves to be in full experience, because what I'm going to emphasize is that because we're energy, and how it works is even in the privacy of your own home, there's a frequency that's sort of coming out of your head and reaching out for a match on the planet. And if we are not in the life that we want, we just simply need to recognize what is this frequency that I'm amplifying out, because you are getting a match to that. When we do this reset, what we just did, particularly when it's your emotional body, we're bringing you into a neutrality, a neutral place. And it doesn't mean that all of your life experiences that you carried, because they're in the cellular body, they're going to come out as you're in that neutral. So that's why you may have different feelings, and how they're coming out because you're matching them. Your environment already matches them. And so if we don't then grab hold of them through our mind and repeat the story, what we do instead is we simply allow it to come out and let it dissipate. Then we're simply present and we can have something new. And so it's an experience that's going on. It's not, I got to think this, I got to da-da-da. We're out of that. Okay. It's really just being in fullness of your body and allowing for the experience. And there's a difference between thinking your emotions and feeling your thoughts. We're going to feel your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you for that clarification. Jerry's asking, what do you do when your experience is so traumatic that it sticks you?
Well, because you're just simply replaying that experience. Again, if I bring you into the now, you're not having that experience. Your now is not. If I'm sitting right here, I'm not having that experience. But my brain is having that experience. My body's having that experience. That's why I'm saying to you that when we do the reset, we bring you into the absolute now. And so there's basically like two of you that becomes present. We have what's your higher self, your consciousness is actually present with this you that you become, okay? And you become the observer of that you. And when we are the observer of that ourself, that's when we can have that traumatic experience, the experience of it come forward and allow it to finally release, because we're not there in that actual moment, but we're feeling as though we are, because we're repeating the story, you see. And it's the way in which it's literally healing the past. We can literally heal the past that way.
Yeah. So just a follow up to that is, so Jerry's asking, so it would take away the PTSD?
Well, yes, because the PTSD is the remembering it. You are literally remembering it to your cellular body. And again, I'm not dissipating in the sense that it isn't real. It's that you're still in that reoccurrence. But if we literally can be in the now, what we're doing is we're in essence revisiting that moment in the now moment and releasing the emotions of it and bringing ourselves to the present. Because we didn't do that, we got stuck there, and we're staying there and repeating it.
Yeah, makes sense.
And again, this can be done. I would recommend that anybody has that to have a private session and definitely take these classes, because they will help move you, because they're going to move through these chakra systems. This crystalline DNA is really great for any of these, because that's all the emotional, for any of these emotional traumatic events that we've had.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Good. Thank you. And Caroline is asking, can a brief description be given for what is week 5? For example, what is giving voice to your life, for example?
Well, that again, we're working through the throat chakra, and so the throat chakra is literally who you really are. It's your soul signature speaking to you. So giving voice to your life is truly you identifying who you are in your life for your life expression, not who you have become. You know, based on your name, based on your family, based on your environment. Those are all things you become. You actually start to voice who you really are, become that. It's more than just your physical voice. It's literally expressing it in the world. You become the expression of yourself.
Yeah, it makes sense. So like you were talking about before, when we were first born on this planet, and before we took on the identity of who we are, right?
Yes.
We become that authentic us again.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you give that voice to you. Yes, to who you really are.
Yeah, because that's who we really are before we got, programmed with all the stuff.
Because think about it, when you're a child, as soon as you're even given a name, and your name may or may not resonate with you, and a lot of times it doesn't. I mean, I've changed my name, and because it wasn't.
Same here. Mine never resonated with me.
Yes, it was a different resonance, and it's a different energy and frequency. And the same, we are told what it means to be a girl or a boy, what it means to be this, and so then you become those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
exactly. But who and what are you really, right? Yeah. And that's what you get to start to experience and express through being you.
Yes.
Awesome.
And and this goes deeper into a whole process of how we actually create. And that'll be a next talk, because that's a whole other series that I'm doing on the toroidal field, but that's another time.
That's another time and place. Yes, absolutely. Good. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So again, the special offers are available at alara.at/show/Cathleena7. Let me just see. Hold 1 second here. So that's C8. Oops, 1 second. Let me just, for those of you who are wanting to, let's see if I can paste it in here. Yes, I can. Cathleena7. All right, so please do take a look at it. How far ahead are you booked, Cathleena?
Probably just maybe a week out, 2 weeks out. I
So
should have some time. The
yes.
other thing I do want to mention is that if they want to experience a little bit more of who I am, I have a couple of videos out too on Awaken and Empower YouTube channel. I do have a Cathleena Hailley YouTube, but only one of my videos is on that. The other is on.
Awesome. So yeah, so you can go to Awake and Empowered. I don't know what it's called more than that, but you can Google that, or on YouTube, and search, and you'll find Cathleena's videos there if you'd like to just experience more and learn more about Cathleena as well. Okay. So awesome. This was, oh my goodness, that was so wonderful. I'm definitely going to do it again.
Yeah.
Right. That process, that activation, the reset of the crystalline DNA was, really, really awesome. So definitely do it again. It wasn't very long, maybe 5 minutes, right? So it's something that you can do and experience, and just be with it. Don't have any expectations. Don't try and control it at all, right? But just experience it again for yourself. And Yeah, and know that it is doing stuff. Know that you are shifting at the DNA level, carbon and the crystalline level, you know, so you are coming back to who you truly are in when we do that activation. And then, you know, just be you, experience what that's like.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cathleena. This was awesome. I loved it. Like I said, I'm going to do it again for sure.
Thank you. I enjoyed being on your show. I look forward to being on again sometime.
Awesome. Thank you. Definitely, definitely. All right, everyone. So thank you so much for being here, sharing this time and space with us. And I'm so glad you were able to experience that activation that Cathleena did for us. It was beautiful, wonderful. Keep drinking water, right? Keep being present, etc. Right? And take a look at the special offers and see which one resonates with you and enjoy, right? So go back and do this again. And let me know what you experienced, right? So thank you, everyone. Until next time, may you continue to be blessed with an abundance of joy, peace, love, happiness, prosperity, and radiant health. Sending you all much love and blessings always. Bye for now. Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.